Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for Stage 5 of what has been an eventful and historic Tour de France. Already a very exciting sprint stage. Nervous ties from Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne to Saint-Vulbas, 178 Ks. The first half or first two-thirds completely monotonous. I had some errands to do. You know, Toby had to get groomed. Lots of different things. This is what you do on sprint stages. It's a marathon, not a sprint. That's what they say, Benji. I don't watch all these stages.
What in the Christian Prudhomme is that Tour de France shirt that you're wearing?
I got this when the tour came to Andorra, and in 2021 they throw everything out. That's where I got the Chris bucket hat and this fucking shirt. It's probably stained yellow. I was too fat to wear it. It's like a kid's one. So now I can actually wear it. And it's been sitting in the bottom of the cupboard. I thought maybe one day I'll be able to wear the kid's shirt again. So I thought I'd put it on. But yeah, obviously, not an official representative of the Tour de France. Certainly not. I wouldn't have put a bend in the final 150 meters of this sprint. So yeah, we got a sprint stage after 3 of the 4 exciting stages before. Poggy slapping Jonas about yesterday, but today a sprint. First 68 Ks, false flat downhill to Chambéry, which is where Decathlon Age Desert La Mondiale are based. Would they want to go on the exposure breakaway? Absolutely not. Despicable conduct. Then a 12K, 2% climb, and then another valley around Aoste, the French Aoste, not the Italian Aosta, where there's the intermediate sprint, and then a 3K, 5% climb, the Côte de Louis, which is a bit of a false plateau at the top. That's miles from the finish, 40 Ks from the finish, then another flat run into the finish. It starts is rain predicted, mostly headwind at the start, lots and lots and lots and lots of road furniture. Are we near Annecy here? Oh no, we're sort of south, we're skirting around the real Alps, so where Albertville and Annecy is. So yeah,
basically
they found a sprint stage somehow, but it's all big boring roads.
Exactly. I feel like Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne is always the motherland, the Glandon, the major climbs, but we're like in the valley, no?
Exactly, because they're like, okay, we can't put like too many GC stages at the start of this tour, but they started in Italy, and you have to get back into France somehow, and so. Yeah, they've concocted some sort of sprint stage, and there was a lot of road furniture. Some of the road furniture they took out, thankfully, and repaved, but I wasn't expecting anyone to go on the breakaway, Benji, because was there any news before the stage? We should basically say there was Vingegaard's interview last night, post-recording. How would you characterize, I'll let you say it, how would you characterize his mood or that interview from him? It was kind of different from his usual one, I thought.
Like very calm, very, very evaluating that he seemed pretty happy that he only lost 50 seconds in the first 4 stages, which I don't know. I don't know whether I believe or don't believe what he's saying, because I don't know what I believe what any rider is saying in an interview after a race, but
no way he's happy he lost 50 seconds. Like no one would be happy losing any time.
But he was saying that he thought he would have lost 2 minutes over the first in 3 of the 4 first stages.
Cumulatively, not each stage.
I think 2 minutes is a slight exaggeration, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe at the end of week 1 with the TT included, you could theoretically get there. But yeah, it's kind of true. I was also thinking that last night, like, what if he never gets dropped, but UAE controls stage 1 and stage 2, Poggy uses his burst and takes 5 seconds, and Boney here, Boney there, Boney here, Boney there. He could have easily been at 35, 40 seconds anyway. But he said his time will come. We will see. We will see. But Pogacar is in yellow jersey, but they don't have to do anything today, obviously. But Ayuso, no breakaway because no one cares. No one pedaled. They were doing like 30 kilometers an hour on false flat downhill. They were not pedaling. I think Alberson and de Klerk are a little bit annoying, I have to say, in that, like, some teams do go to form a breakaway of guys who should be allowed in a suicide TV break, and they're shutting them down. And I'm like, you guys, you have to let a break go. Like, you can't, this will be terrible if you don't let a break go. Just let these 3 guys go, and then you can sit behind them on 1 minute.
I went for a bike ride during the early parts of the afternoon because I was like, it's a sprint stage, and there's no breakaway up the road, so I can afford to do this. I come back, and the race has barely moved forwards. And I feel like I still rode for like more than an hour and a half. So I was thinking, why has the race not moved forward? But the reality is, if there's no breakaway, there's no incentive from the peloton to ride hard behind the breakaway or at least control the gap towards a breakaway. So the tempo's less. And
7 watts for 20 minutes they average is what Astana said.
really?
7 watts, yep.
Jesus
You missed the
Christ.
funniest bit. The funniest bit, maybe I'm reading into it too much. Adam Yates this morning said, I'm happy to do my job. We all saw that. Adam Yates
Yep.
is a really, really good teammate.
Respect.
He's anyone would kill to have Adam Yates on their
And?
team. But then he said, yeah, I had to pull early. Some people weren't in position, and it felt like a little bit of a jab. G on his What's Occurring podcast last night, I think said Ayuso is like the black sheep of the UAE team. And then today, Ayuso jumped in the breakaway with Lazcano, and they were pulling. No one reacted. It was just a bit of a joke. They were going 35 instead of 30 on a downhill.
Yeah.
They were just, having a bit of fun. And then the radio of UAE, they played it. UAE said, Juan, what are you doing? You're going to provoke a war. And I was like,
You're going to provoke a war.
I can say it now publicly. Like, if Juan Ayuso jumps in a 2-hour breakaway on this stage, if Isma are not going to put Wout van Aert on the front. So everyone needed to just relax a little bit. I mean, everyone was relaxing. This is a good example, though, of like, the directors are often more stressed than the riders, Benji.
Yeah.
Because they're like, and then Poggy went to the, and then Ayuso responded with a bit of sass.
Yeah.
It's just a joke. Come on. And then goes back in the peloton. And then Poggy goes up to the front with MVDP, and then he's like, let's roll through. Everyone's still chilling. Like, it's all relaxed, whatever, no stress. And then Ineos, and then a rider on Ineos says on the radio, Pogacar's gone to the front and he might be attacking. And then the DSs go, Pogacar's attacking? What? And so, like, no, this is, I know it sounds like a bit of a joke. Sorry, Toby's just been groomed.
The doggo has come in.
Let's have a look at Toby. How he's going.
He's so cute now. He's for the people that are on podcast players. Toby is the dog of Patrick and has lost all his hair.
You've been shown, buddy.
It's a naked dog.
But yeah, I think the DS is often in the radios, they do create a bit more stress on it. Anyway, Benji, I thought that was funny. And yeah. Oh, sorry. But who was eventually in the breakaway? Did Total eventually got the Prudhomme call?
Yes. And they got the Benji Naesen call as well. Because who's in the breakaway? One of the two riders I mentioned yesterday. Not patting myself on the back too much because there's only one of the two riders.
Gashignard got stung by an insect, so you're clear on him.
Fair.
He's injured.
Vergé's in the breakaway, and Gashignard called his mate from the other team, Rousseau, to go in there instead. So technically, I've got a victory going on here. That's the breakaway. It's not really an early breakaway anymore at this point. It's a breakaway in the middle of the stage at this point. But that breakaway, well, they take the intermediate sprint points. They're up the road by like a minute maximum, I think. It's like, it's not dangerous at all. It's being controlled in the peloton. Don't even know which teams are controlling because it's the usual sprint teams. And it's all, well, actually, about the sprint teams, we're at the point in the Grand Tour so far that there's still quite a bit of teams that are intrigued to help out Alpecin because Alpecin has not been the ultimate dominant sprint team with Philipsen like last year. So it's logical, right?
I would say Philipsen looks like shit compared to peak Philipsen. Like, you can say all you want about it being a hard start yesterday and it being a bit of a false flat drag uphill sprint.
Mm-hmm.
Jasper Philipsen wins false flat uphill sprints when he wants to. He doesn't get beaten by Bini or Coquard. And I'm not saying he's in bad shape, but I didn't realize, Benji, he crashed on stage 3.
Yep.
And I thought it was just because I never saw him on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it affected him. I don't know. It obviously did, and he didn't. He just doesn't. He just this whole year, even in Belgium tour, he just doesn't look as sharp, you know.
Yep, and especially at the intermediate sprint as well today, because we had the intermediate sprint. Decathlon was doing a lead out. I'm guessing with Naesen for Bennett. Naesen who has actually been a pretty solid lead out,
pretty good,
in this race so far. And I'm not just saying that because his name is Naesen, but he's got in the wheel Bennett. Pedersen actually comes from pretty far, starts the sprint early, passes everyone, then Bennett launches as well, and it's basically a 1v1 sprint, while Philipsen is kind of behind that, trying to move up, but I felt like Philipsen never really was able to pass riders there, while Pedersen goes to the front, takes the points by a minimum margin on Bennett.
Yeah, not by much. I would say more than less than a meter and more than a centimeter, somewhere in between there. And again, if you thought Philipsen's form was a bit sus, watching this intermediate sprint, he's going just as quick, no quicker than Coquard in a flat sprint, and he crosses the line and shakes his head. And I'm thinking there's something not 100%. He's not 100%. Yeah, he
And
can't be.
we've noticed a few times this year as well when he had a sprint that he was disappointed by. For example, Malier beat him in one stage, and the day after he won at, was it at Boas Belgium Tour? Might have
Yeah,
been.
they went back and forth.
And after the Merlier one, he said in an interview in Belgian media, I'm not sure which website it was. He said that he had mentally he was a bit down from the loss from Merlier, and to be honest, his own words in the Netflix show. If you once you don't win anymore, you're nothing.
Yeah, you're only as good as your last win. If you don't win, you're yesterday's news, and it's kind of true in the sprinting game. To be honest, like already, you would say Merlier looks better than him this year. Frankly,
yeah,
I would say looks way quicker. Milan probably too. Anyway, that's the intermediate sprint. Pedersen probably was looking like the favorite for green. I would say actually, if I had to go with between the two of them, but then we get into nervousness. Let's go to the final 50, 60 kilometers. Nervousness. I was kind of curious. Visma go to the front, Benji?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's on. It's a 4-minute gap to a 2-up French TV break. Dillier is on the front with de Klerk just pacing.
Yeah.
And Visma got the whole team behind in a line eating a shitload of wind. And I'm like, what are they doing? And then 5Ks later, an incredible amount of road furniture unsignaled begins, and it could have just been luck. Maybe they just wanted to be in the wind. I don't know. And then Pogacar, he's in the middle of the peloton where often UAE sit, and there's a unsignaled. Well, there's a bit of road furniture, a stop sign, let's say hip height, so you can't see it in the peloton. You cannot see obviously something that's shorter than a rider. It's exactly like what Cavendish crashed into and flipped over in MSR when on dimension data. UAE, Poggy's teammates, they probably should not have done that. They moved to the right late. Some of them see it. They don't signal it at all. And in fact, Poggy tries to move in. He can't move in all the way, out of the way of it, because he will chop himself onto the back wheel of maybe Soler, so he has to come back out a bit. Bennett was in front of him, I think, or somebody who moves out late, but just late enough. And Poggy full fishtails and somehow keeps it up himself. But obviously when you go from 55 and full emergency brake, the domino effect is someone else will crash, and then there's a crash. But you know, Poggy has 9 lives, but also he has that Sagan level handling. Like, I'm sorry, but like Roglic or whoever.
Vingegaard probably too.
Vingegaard's not bad.
No, but in that situation, I see him crashing.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, other GC guys, they are hitting that sign. They're going down. They're going down. Yeah. So, but still, like, it's still not good to be in that situation, you know?
Yeah, that's for sure. And let's look at the angles here, because the first reaction from a lot of people was, "Oh, what a save!" Was also my first reaction.
Crazy save.
Second reaction from a lot of people was, "Oh, Pogacar just crashed other people."
No.
I think that's a bad angle, because first of all, Pogacar didn't choose to almost crash. He then goes back in, and yes, that impacts people having to brake, and the rider on the right bottom of him brakes a bit too hard, and that causes a domino effect a bit afterwards, where we see those riders going down. Well, Bilbao, for example, another teammate there as well, three other riders as well. In total, around 5 riders hitting the ground there. Nothing too serious based on the fact that they got up and they got rolling again. But you said at the start, it was unsignaled. To be clear, there was like a yellow square board in front of it that you cannot see, because let's be honest about it. If I'm riding in a peloton behind loads of riders, like you said, I cannot see anything that is under the height of a rider. If it's above the height of a rider, I can see it. Yeah. So it's all about whether it is signaled properly. And that's where this made a mistake, because we see in so many races those like high signaling things, like the Boplan thing, for example. And that is visible. There's lights on top. There's the indication of where you need to go left or right. And the fact that the Tour doesn't have this at this traffic island, but not only there, a bit later as well, because about 15 kilometers later, Christophe Laporte hits a traffic island as well. Pretty similar situation, a bit more in a corner, in a bend, the traffic island. But they
should have taken that traffic. They should have taken that furniture out, because everyone had to hop it. Oh, they did it on other corners.
Is it easier to take it out, or is it easier to put a damn tower of signaling there?
I'm not sure, but
Both is possible.
Some roundabouts they took out. I would say, 100% not Pogacar's fault. I would say it's what Benji said about the signaling, but also the peloton again. The riders have to accept some blame where the guys at the front, they can see it.
Mm-hmm.
They go to either side, the road splits. So they split on either side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've seen this on multiple days in the sprint stages. There's guys who are then in the middle. They can see it. They're looking ahead then at the roundabout, and they are deciding last minute which way they want to go.
Yeah.
They don't make an early decision about impediment, move over, signal behind. No, there's a lot of guys who are looking at it and they're like, yep, see it. Right, looks quicker, bang.
Yeah.
Go across. And then another guy does it, and then Pogacar's left holding the bag almost and has to emergency brake. So it's not his fault, but also his team probably could have signaled him a bit better.
And lastly, when it comes to the signaling, often you see like a marshal standing there with a little flag, a yellow flag on top. But I actually think that's kind of dangerous for that marshal, that job. So I'd much rather
I'd be scared to do it, yeah.
Yeah, I would never do that job in my entire life. So I'd much rather see the materialistic solution then.
Yeah. Anyway, we're thinking a trek and a pace on the 3K 5% climb. The answer is no. It's just a GC battle. Verscher and Rousseau are brought back. We see on the front of the road Astana, which is important to note. And we hear on the radio Renshaw saying, Harold, how hard that is, get to the front for that climb. So of the sprint teams, there's only two at the front, which is Astana and DSM. DSM, they just do it by force of habit with Frank Vandenbroek. And then Roglic with Haller. Bora actually did a really, really good job today in the wet in front. So good job by Red Bull. Then Ineos were there, but they're not there. Turner couldn't stay at the front today. And then it was UAE, sort of. They struggled to keep Pogacar in good position. They had Wellens and Sivakov. Soler wasn't at the front for a while. Then Pollock came through. But then when it really came last 10Ks, Poggy was there. And then Visma on the right with Kelderman. And also notably, we saw Laporte move up, and which meant that Van Aert wasn't going to go for the sprint today. When you see Laporte doing the final lead out, the safety margin was 4Ks to go today, not 5Ks, not 3Ks. What did you see from I think Astana, Benji, really came with intent today, with being in front for the descent, maybe too quick on the descent.
Yeah.
I think they were just, I don't know, they were just up for it as a team today. Whole team, Tahara, Fedorov, keeping Cav in good position. They did that better than almost every other sprint team.
I think that's fair to say, and it's not only on the descents, but also on the straight segment towards the finish line, the last 30 kilometers. Yeah. Astana was at the front a lot of the time, and it's not just the last 10 kilometers. Also at like 25 kilometers to go, I see Astana at the front. I see Astana at the front a bit later, to the point that I was like, are they at the front too early? Are they at the front too late? The questions start arising. Definitely not too late this time.
No.
That's for sure, and that's one of the teams that was very active when it comes to positioning. Christoph crashed as well. Yep. Alexander Christoph, not Christoph Laporte, because he crashed also at that traffic island that I mentioned earlier. Alexander crashed more in a descending downhill
the descent
segment.
Off Louise, yeah.
But he seemed to be relatively okay. He was on the bike pretty quickly, and he finished the stage, I'm guessing. So
he came third.
Okay, I think he finished the stage pretty good then.
But he hit his elbow pretty hard, but he took a while to come back, and UNOX did a decent job, I think, with Varenskold and Abrahamsen keeping him in good position.
Maybe the crash's adrenaline is what got him to third.
Maybe, yeah.
But
got him fired up.
We spoke about a lot of things, also a bit about Vingegaard's positioning early on in the stage, being near the front, while Pogacar was a bit in the middle with that traffic island accident. Did we see any changes when it comes to positioning of GC riders in the last 20 kilometers?
No, I would say that what happened normally, I mean, I would say Rodriguez and Ineos not as good as maybe they have been in the past.
Yeah.
Poggy, he is the best at finding his own way. So basically Laporte comes, absolutely drills it, doing a sprint lead out like he's a final man normally, but he's doing it to 4Ks to go, and Poggy's like, sweet, I'll just go on Vingegaard's wheel and I have my own train. Remco and Quickstep are staying out of it, which I think is the correct thing to do. I think you got to look at what your GC rider is. And you know, you said Vingegaard might have crashed. I actually think Vingegaard normally in the hectic is actually extremely good. But like, I don't think Remco and that Quickstep team waving forward, waving back, having elbows on either side in his ribs is the way to go. I think you put the team around him, you find a safe spot behind, you accept that on a long straight there's not going to be splits most likely. If there's a crash, you can go around it. It's not like stage 3 of the Tour in 21 where it was a road width of this table where it got blocked up, and you just avoid the risk of crashing with a guy who is not as good in the hectic as Pogačar, for example.
But in these sprint stages, we've noticed that the left side of the road was very popular again today.
Yeah, I don't know why.
And I think with about 13 kilometers to go, before the moment that you mentioned, you mentioned a moment that Pogačar was kind of finding his own way. There was also a moment before that where UAE was on the left side of the road. No, actually, Vingegaard's team, Visma was on the left side of the road, and UAE just on the right side of that. And what is the goal when it comes to the bubble you have on the left side of the road? Because there was a moment where I felt like Vingegaard was like not in the right position when it comes to the bubble that they're trying to create on the left.
In theory, you put like as many riders as possible around the GC rider and then create like a halo effect, but it's easier said than done. It's easy with Laporte, but yeah, Benoit and Van Aert, they were not up there today. So Tratnik and Kelderman and Jorgensen were trying to do it with Laporte. And
Tratnik's been really good when it comes to the positioning and getting Vingegaard to the front in safe positions in the last 25 kilometers in both sprint stages, I'm pretty sure. Also in front of the traffic islands. I think Soler was actually pretty good as well. But the moment where Soler was like trying to flick Pogačar through 70 times, and Pogačar was like waiting until the 70th time to go past him. That was really funny. But we're getting to the last 10 kilometers. We're getting to the sprinter teams now. And before we get into the actual positioning for the last X amount of kilometers, we had the rule change that the race can decide the amount of kilometers. So we had a 3 kilometer rule back in the day. And in the previous sprint stage, that became a 5 kilometer rule. So that if you crash or have a mechanical in the last 5 kilometers, that you get the same time as the group that you were a part of. In this race, it's a 4 kilometer rule today. I don't know why they chose a 4 kilometer rule. I think they're just testing stuff out. But do you think that affected the last 10 kilometers here? Because I didn't actually...
I mean, it seemed fine. No GC guys crashed. Like, it was pretty hectic, of course. But yeah, I mean, was he in less danger being at the back chilling compared to Pogačar and Vingegaard? I don't know. I really don't know. But yeah, they get through 4K safely. They move off the front. The sprinters teams take over. We're going to have our sprint. There's been no crash before the 4Ks. And we have Lotto and Intermarché coming to the front early. DSM as well. Abrahamsen starts jumping on the left-hand side, but no one's in his wheel. He was trying to move up Christoph, but Christoph's like, no, thank you. Lotto with VC, I don't mind them actually, Benji. If you don't think you have the train to do like the lead out like Ricard and Van der Poel, then I don't mind them moving De Lee into position early actually with Campenaerts and co.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it looks like Lotto were too early, but in the end, I actually think moving De Lee up early is not a bad idea. And then 1K to go, we see... well, what I thought looked like a very reminiscent sign from previous years. Alpecin de Koenig, 3 lead-out men, including Van der Poel, Jasper Philipsen on the wheel. You're thinking 100,000 meters left. That's more than enough firepower. The Alpecin train, I got to say, did not do what I expected. I thought they were going to blow everybody apart into the final bend and launch Philipsen. Because, yeah, Van der Poel would launch him into... You want to be on the right bend, getting launched on the inside, because that's the quickest line. And what did you see from the other trains? It looked like, to me, even Arkea, I don't know who it was, maybe Dan McClay, they waved over Van der Poel when when it was time for Van der Poel to launch. He really didn't have it.
Yeah, exactly. It was Dan McClay that hit the front, and then Van der Poel had like a 3-second sprint, I think, in the leader. He wasn't part of it too much. And with that Alpecin train as well, they spend a lot of energy moving up on the left side. And then with 4 riders, like you mentioned, and the order was seemingly different than I anticipated, because I would expect Ricard to be the 3rd last rider. Ricard was the 4th last rider today, I think.
Yeah.
Because he went off the front, and then the 3rd last rider didn't really manage to do
Robbie Gijs.
Much to get them to the front even more. And then Van der Poel tried as well, but it was Philipsen kind of stayed in the same spot while all this was happening. He's not actually in a terrible spot. No, I'd say he's on the 2nd or 3rd row right now of like...
It's a winnable position.
3 riders up per row, so he's in a good position. But other sprint teams, I'm looking at Cav, and he's kind of Mirko brought him into a manageable position. He's kind of wheel surfing now in the last 600 meters, 700 meters.
Well, Mirko actually got chopped out of it, and I think it was Bowl in front of him.
Oh, okay.
Mirko couldn't do anything for Cav today in the end. And Cavendish, I don't know, this was like, I remember in Bahrain it was really bad. He really like couldn't, he didn't have his nerve anymore to fight in the sprints in that year where he had a terrible year.
Yeah.
Then there was the other year then he quick step resurgence, he was back, but he also had the mutant lead out train that just like went 1, 2, 3, bang, and he didn't really have to fight as much.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went to Astana, and there was some times where he's like, he's really not fighting for that wheel. Today, this was like,
mate,
he was locked in. He's going left following the fast train. He sees Ackerman is the quick line who's about to do the lead out. The right-hand side around the bend is the fast way. And he just, Philipsen had the winning position.
Yep.
The winning position was Ackerman's wheel, who was going to launch you on the right-hand side. And he just moves over Philipsen, and Philipsen yields that wheel, not even a fight. Last year, Philipsen gives the big don't argue to Cavendish, for better or worse, and he keeps Ackerman's wheel. And that was the sprint. Cav takes it, gets into the wheel, jumps left, clean Perry Hills. Reminded me of his UAE sprint when he won ahead of Philipsen, maybe in 22, 21. And jumps left. Philipsen's in his wheel, is still in his wheel, and he's not coming out of it. And Cavendish beats him by a bike length after swinging to the left-hand barriers, cutting off the draft. There's a big crash behind with the wave effect. Cav moves left, Philipsen moves left, Christoph moves left. They're all fine, but then bang, 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 down the line. Basically, Pedersen gets chopped out of it, I think not really. Bennett didn't really chop him. It just happened with the wave effect of a guy moving. Pedersen hits the barriers really, really hard. Talented young French rider Axel Zangler on Cofidis.
Mate.
Bunny hops him.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was looking at like...
Mid-sprint, a lead-out rider for Kokar, jumping over Pedersen's head, basically, while he's laying on the ground after crashing into the barriers. That is one of the craziest things I've seen when it comes to bunny hop, because we all know the famous bunny hops of Peter Sagan of Cancellara Sagan over Cancellara?
Yeah, pretty sure, yeah.
In Roubaix. Multiple others that I can remember, but this is visibly one of the craziest ones, because it's like in the moment, it's in the sprint. Yes, Zangler's job is done. He's not sprinting anymore.
Are you sure?
He's got to get those UCI points.
I'm not sure he was doing a lead out, but yeah.
I think he was there for the lead out in the first place.
Maybe, yeah.
Because Kokar was in a good position. I didn't look at Cofidis the entire time. I'll be honest about that. But it's also just a very chaotic sprint, in my opinion, because there's no all-out lead-out this year.
No.
We saw it in the first sprint stage. We saw it in this one. There's no Alpecins that is dominating the lead-out. We've got Stuyven and Gibbons at the front at a certain point before we get what you said happening. So it's visibly very chaotic, and you'd say, okay, that's a terrain in which Bauhaus is good, but then it comes into play that Cavendish was also shouldering Bauhaus out of a position to get that position to freewheel. Like, we've had moments in the past where Cavendish went a bit too far with his head and so forth. I gotta be honest, it was a pretty solid shoulder barge towards Bauhaus, but for the sake of the 35th, I'm going to pretend I didn't see it.
I mean, Bauhaus has given some big don't argues to Ewan. And
but...
Yeah, that doesn't make it two wrongs, don't make it right. To be honest, from what... Cavendish today, I don't think crossed the line.
Yeah,
I
think that's fair.
He kept his head straight and his elbows generally straight, and he moved into positions. Yeah, okay, is he chopping guys out a bit? Maybe, but also Philipsen, I think he kind of yielded that wheel. So
I don't know if it's yielding. It's as if the Arkea rider McLeay moves backwards as Philipsen has to come around, and Cavendish kind of has a better line going into it. So it's half yielding, half Cavendish had the advantage to begin with for the wheel of Ackermann. But anyway, regardless, very impressive wheel surfing by Cavendish, and he's one of those riders that has been the most impressive when it comes to those. But before we jump into the was any move in the sprint dangerous, we got to talk about Cavendish a bit. What is your first memory of Cavendish? Because I started watching cycling in the 2005 to 2010 era, because of I was a pro cycling manager gamer, went into let's actually watch a cycling race phase with Tom Bonen and so forth. But 2009, 2010 was really the years where I started hammering, always watching cycling, and that is peak HTC Columbia, HTC High Road leadouts for Cavendish. Those were like the solid sprint trains that you saw on the Champs-Élysées. The last kilometers dominated by a single team. Renshaw leading out Cavendish, but also in other races, André Greipel leading out Cavendish, I'm pretty sure, as well in 2011 or something. So super impressive. And I think the first image I have of Cavendish, the T-Mobile time, I don't remember. That's too early for me. But taking his glasses off, I think, while wearing the blue HTC Columbia kit. That's what I vividly remember.
I think I was a 2012 Sky baby because Cadell won in 2011. So mine's Cav on I think winning on the. Did you win on the Champs-Élysées in 2012 or no? Wiggins just did the lead out then.
Oof, I actually do not know. I'd have to take a look. 2012.
He did. He won stage 20 in Paris. So he won the Champs-Élysées sprint. That's my first memories. Cav and Sky also won GC with Wiggins ahead of Froome. So that's my first memory. But then
won Worlds too that year?
DNF.
Okay.
He won
2011.
2011, yeah. In Copenhagen. So yeah, huge win for Cavendish, the 35th. To be honest, like the record doesn't really mean. It's like a cumulative record. It's a really fantastic achievement. It's like a maybe something that we thought might never be broken in a professional era. It's even more impressive to do it in the professional era as well. I kind of think what's more impressive is the fact that he's done it at 39 years old. Like, he's a freak. Like 39 years old, sprinters, half of them are not washed, but they're not at 30. Half of them are not good. Just they're past their peak.
Is he sprinting Valverde?
He kind of looks as good as that. Honestly, Benji, like he completely rinsed Philipsen today. Yep. He destroyed everybody. He won by a bike length. He got the perfect position. He didn't even have a good lead out.
Would you go as far as saying that it might not stop at 35 based on what you saw today?
Yeah, no, he's the top 2 sprinter in this race. Like Pedersen, I don't know the status on him. He just crashed at 70 kilometers an hour into a barrier and hit the deck. He's out. Van Aert didn't sprint today. Groenewegen can't position half the time. He had his chance on stage 3.
But so it's Cav. He also can't position half of the time because of his team.
Yeah, well, I actually think Cav's lead out's not too bad.
Today was good.
Yeah, I think his lead out with Bowl and Mercu Ballerini, and I think it's not too bad actually. And Renshaw in the car, but he with Philipsen crashing and not looking so quick, I think he can win more. And there's loads of sprints in this race too.
And it's not just that he does it at 39, but the stuff that happened in the last few years leading up to this victory as well. Because
crashed last year,
the Apstein bar stuff, but also the interview that I really remember on Bahrain. Was it Gent Wevelgem where he was kind of crying basically in the interview?
Yeah,
where he was like, okay, this might be my final race, and that was heartbreaking. That was genuinely heartbreaking, and it was then Quickstep that picked him up. Patrick Lefevere picked him up for Quickstep. Ended up winning valiantly on that team again. I still remember the calf to the Tour hype we started in the Tour of Turkey when he got that victory at Quickstep. That was a crazy period. But then last year he crashed out.
Yeah, collarbone.
He wasn't able to go for that, and now he comes out on stage 5 and does it. I gotta be honest, I was sitting on the couch with about 40 kilometers to go, and my opinion was Cavendish better wins today so we can finally stop talking about this 35.
Man, I mean, it was, incredible, to be honest. Like, just the way that, like, you could see it coming, the way he did it so easily in the end, and just, like, he'd never skipped a beat without the final, like, it's not like Mercu just launched him and dropped him off with 50 meters to go, like in 2021 and said, there you go. And with Philipsen in the wheel, just really, really incredible stuff. And Astana, you saw Vinokurov in the interview of Cavendish, you know, how ecstatic he was. And Astana had like a cameo in the Netflix series because of Cavendish. They shoehorned them in basically for Cav. And you could see like it's all about Cavendish winning that stage. And the team, frankly, for points and the relegation battle not going well. And listen, this doesn't really help that much either. But it may help getting some money in to get some other riders to score some points next year. There's also rumors that almost actually broke today of a Chinese bike manufacturer maybe buying out the license of Astana, and certainly winning a Tour de France stage with Cavendish won't hurt with marketing the team in that respect.
I vividly remember a rumor a few weeks ago already relating to something related to Asia when it comes to Astana that could have meant that there was a sponsor coming in from that area. So I feel like everything is pointing towards that. I think it was Cycling News that brought out an article, an exclusive Chinese brand, XDS Carbon Tech invests in Astana, Kazakhstan to create a new super team. That's an article that came out today by Dani Ostanek and Steven Ferrand. And based on that title alone, I'm happily seeing money being invested. And it's also, I also feel like we've got so many races in China, like Qinghai Lake, like Guangxi and so forth, like Fuzhou, I think, is also a race that is going on there.
Yeah.
I'm going through my Conti Chinese races
what
right
race?
now.
Just look up Mareshko's Palmares.
Facts.
Taihu Lake,
Yeah.
Hainan, Lang. No, are they all in?
Taihu Lake is in China, yeah?
I'm just checking. It's in China.
Yeah.
Yes, in China. I was about to say, no, Langkawi is in Malaysia, no?
And there's also, when it comes to YouTube, I see more and more videos coming up about Chinese equipment brands and so forth. So it's like a whole market there that might want to tap into pro cycling as well if they see the opportunity in pro cycling to do so, because they have their stands at Tour of Guangxi there at the race. So I'm very curious if this is like a potential step forward for pro cycling to globalize a little more into that area. And in addition to that, wasn't there also like a rumor back in the day that a Chinese company would take over Lampre before UAE did?
Yeah, I think so. Before they became the richest team in the world. Yeah.
But anyway, we've spoken about Astana a lot.
But it makes sense. Like China's middle class, you know, that it's like what? China's middle class is the population size of the entirety of Europe, maybe more. I don't know. It's like over 700 million people or something. So
probably a bit of cyclists in there.
So yeah, there's going to be eventually some people that want to take up road cycling.
But lastly about Cav, I do want to ask everybody on YouTube, go into the comment section, tell us your favorite memory about Mark Cavendish. If it's this victory, maybe, could be, but it's definitely fun to see him winning. But about the sprint.
Oh, but it was vintage Cav, just not to finish, like even down to the interview just being like awkward, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, so yeah, it was
like super chill.
Yeah, chill, yeah. I think interviewers are a little bit, they know not to tread carefully around Cavendish sometimes in the interviews. But yeah, I should do the top 10, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Cavendish wins ahead of Jasper Philipsen, then Christoph third, De Lee fourth. That's actually better than I expected from him in a full bunch sprint again. So De Lee is overperforming. Jakobsen fifth, Ackermann sixth, Demar, Thijssen, Biniam Gomez eighth and ninth on the same team. Bini won the other day, but still strange to watch. Vandenberg 10th, and then Gaviria and Groenewegen were all out of position. And that's it.
One last thing about the sprint itself. I do the social media watch when it comes to these races every now and then, and there was quite a bit of talk about, this guy should be relegated, this guy should be relegated, especially when it comes to Cav at first and then Philipsen, because of the deviation that they did from the right side of the road to the left side of the road.
Yeah.
But to be clear, the deviation rule says specifically that you can't deviate if you endanger somebody. And the question then is, do you consider it endangering someone if you move to the left, don't hinder anybody, but then other people behind you decide to do the same because you do that, and as a consequence, they endanger someone? Sorry, but for me, that's a stretch. You can't blame the first rider that has open air and is doing that safely for those other riders following them and not doing that safely. But can you then blame Bennett and De Lee for moving to the left in the wheels of those other people and hindering Pedersen that way? I don't know either. So it's as if there's like a bit of a question that the rule isn't answering.
Yeah, you can't ping. Pedersen the other day didn't get pinged for it when he went left and then swung all the way right.
Yeah.
And Cavendish today did the same thing, but he left space to the next guy. It's like, he left space to the next. Philipsen left space to the next guy. Philipsen went full swing.
Yeah.
And he got sanctioned for what last year he did it to Binny and nothing happened to him, right?
Philipsen?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he
I don't think so. It was Van der Poel that got relegated.
No, I think also Philipsen chopped the shit out of Binny.
Yeah, but he didn't get relegated, is what I mean.
Yeah, and nothing happened to him. And he left enough space to Christoph.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, really, it has to start with the top, which is when you launch your sprint, you cannot deviate from your lane you've chosen.
Okay.
And so that's and then remove the endangerment part. So then Cavendish launches his sprint. He has to sprint in a straight line. Then there is none of this waving and domino effect.
Yeah, but then another question about your rule that you just invented is, what happens? Okay, you've got Cavendish that's deciding to sprint at the front in a straight line. I'm in his wheel. There's a rider on my left. I deviate to the left to get out of the wheel of that sprinter or out of Cavendish, and I hinder that other rider. I haven't launched my sprint yet, but I am deviating and endangering a rider.
Well, yeah, then you've endangered someone, so then you should get pinged for it.
Yeah.
If you chop someone. But yeah, I'm getting it on PCS. I'm getting an advertisement for Bauhaus.
Well, an advertisement.
He's really distracted.
By the way,
me.
advertisement, is that like Australian pronunciation?
Is that advertisement? What do you say? Advertisement.
Advertisement.
Oh, I don't know how to speak English. But yeah, certainly like 2 sprints we've seen now where the riders at the front have safely swung and not chopped the next guy, but then the wave effect has caused a crash or nearly caused a crash. But yeah, big win for Cavendish. And I don't think he'll stop being competitive here. It was not luck. It was not luck that he won today. He was literally just the best.
And also with Binyam, it also wasn't luck. Yes, people crashed, but he also beat a load of sprinters.
Yeah. That was more lucky in the circumstances, I would say. But
it was still the most impressive sprint I've seen on the flat by Binyam almost ever.
Yeah. And in the Giro, he also showed that he seems to have improved in that respect. So that was why it was such a shame he crashed out. Tomorrow's stage from Macon to Dijon, going up to the Mustard region. There might be some wind. I think 164 Ks. It actually opens with a climb for once, so maybe we'll see something actually happen at the start. The Col du Bois Clair, 1,700 meters at 6%, only 1 KOM point. I dare say Abrahamson will jump for it. The intermediate sprints after that climb, but 20 Ks after. I mean, before Pedersen crashed today, I would have said that Trek do a lead out and launch him into the break on that climb for the sprint points. But now, after he crashed at 70 kph, I can't see it happening. So it's going to be a sprint. It's going to be nervous. It's really flat, and there could be wind. So we're just going to see another nervous day. And the speed might be high even without a breakaway, just because everyone's told to get to the front.
I also feel like the strategy of attacking with Pedersen and Silvov on that climb is a higher risk one when it comes to energy on a flat sprint stage where you can also compete at the end.
Yeah.
Especially because if he goes to that intermediate sprint finish, will Philipsen get it right for once?
I don't think he's got the legs.
I don't know.
I don't see him as so dominant. Last year, even when he was in bad position, he would just swing out and then like win easily.
He still got second and beat everyone else though. So he's good enough to... I'm going to go with Philipsen. I think they're going to get it right for once.
Let me just look at this finish. I think
Do you like it?
Crosswinds. It's really in Dijon. They take a left. It's then a long straight. There's a roundabout as well. Where they take the right side. Probably it's been taken out. Oh, actually, no, there's a monument. It's a fast roundabout. There's no way they got rid of that. I'm going to go with Cavendish again.
Okay.
I think Cavendish wins.
Why not? Number 36. Confidence is there after today, so it's definitely possible. I'm going with Philipsen, hoping that he can get his mental pressure off his shoulders after tomorrow, and that we can see them sprint at their best against each other in the weeks to come. So looking forward to it.
Oh, the roundabout's at 750. It's a long straight. Gaviria got no chance. To be honest, this suits Jakobsen and Groenewegen a little bit more than today, I dare say.
I will say when it comes to the lead, the first sprint we had with Binyam, he was boxed in. Today, he was again having trouble with positioning, but he did have the speed. So it wouldn't shock me if on a flat sprint, the lead gets close at a certain point in his Grand Tour. Because on paper, stage 8 is the one where you'd say Pedersen versus the lead.
Yeah.
But he's been relatively close. So if the position is a little bit better,
I think he looks pretty good.
I think so too.
He looks good. He's got the power, but I don't know. I think if the high speed straight sprint, he's maybe not as like Cav looks super aero today. Philipson's aero. Christoph was also overperforming after the crash. But yeah, I'll go with Cav again. Who's in the break, Benji? Which Total boy's in the break tomorrow?
I'm going to go for Grelier because Verchet was on action today and Gachiniar has recovered from his insect thing. So he's going to be in the break together with Grelier. Why am I always choosing two? It's always backfiring.
I'm going to go with nobody in the break again. I think no one's in the break.
Well, Abrahamsen technically because he's going to go for the fourth cat climb.
Yeah, and then maybe he stays there, but yeah, maybe.
And like, Chim de la Bonnette in week 3 has, I think, 40 points on top. So
yeah,
regardless of what Abrahamsen done here, one rider will take 40 points and just wipe away all the points that Abrahamsen has.
But certainly tomorrow, very, very nervous. Could be the possibility of wind or weather. Doesn't look that hot. It was cooler conditions today. No one wants to crash even a minor one before the important TT on Friday, where, the GC guys go and battle once again. So it'll be nervous. We'll be watching, and can Cav make it 36 and make the unbreakable record even more unbreakable? Hope you enjoy listening as always. And we'll see you with a recap tomorrow. Ciao.